Welcome, everyone, to another broadcast, which we call a featured music special. This is something we've been doing for over 20 years. I know you'd think we'd be a little bit better at it by now, but we try, folks, and we do bring you the best new music you have never heard. There are thousands of these programs archived on the Artist First archives. We invite you to join those shows anytime you want. They're absolutely free. Coming up right now is we have a return musician. I believe he's based out of Raleigh, North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm not going to tell you about him. You're going to learn about him right from him. Let's welcome Mike Williams. Hi, Mike.
I want to thank you, Z-Man, for having me back on the show. It's greatly appreciated.
Well, it's Mike, it's wonderful to have you back on. Been doing this 27 years, and we've seen a lot of musicians come and go. Regular listeners know that I've been a professional musician for over 40 years, and this is a tough, tough business. And a lot of people are defeated by this business for various reasons. Maybe we'll talk about that later in the show. But it's great to see that you're still hard at it and out there and putting out great stuff. So what's the new album? What are we going to be listening to tonight?
Well, the new album is titled No More Gods, and I chose 6 songs out of the 10 tracks. And the album, if I had to summarize it, Z-Man, focuses on bringing music back into the arena of social commentary. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. There's a lot of stuff that people would say is maybe upside down, is a good way to say it. And with this album, I focused on calling out those things that I thought needed to be addressed. And I really do believe that music is a very strong vehicle in order to do that, to communicate out, because there's a lot of people that think the same way that I know that I do and many others do, but we don't hear it in the music anymore. Many, many years ago, social commentary was very much a part of the rock scene, but that's completely, in my mind, in my opinion, has dissipated over time. And so I tried to bring it back to that.
Which is fantastic. This platform, the music platform, that's not the word I'm looking for, but I think it has not been utilized. We got so many problems out there. I'm tired of hearing about somebody shooting somebody or getting this. You know what I'm just saying? When you have this ability to talk to people, do it like Mike's describing. Talk about something that's socially helpful. Anyway, I'll get off my editorial horse. Let's give them a little bit of background. Now, you're based out of Raleigh, and you're a singer-songwriter, and let's talk about who are the people you listened to growing up?
Oh, growing up, I'm 64 years old, so I go back to the days of the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin. So I was very much influenced by the British invasion, music of the 60s, the 70s, and actually, going into the 80s as well. And some people will say that I'm stuck at a time warp because I'm still writing what many people would categorize as classic rock. I call it retro rock. But it's the music that I was born and raised on, and it's the music that I really enjoy to play. And I don't think that it goes out of style, Z-Man. I really don't. I believe that if you write decent songs, good tunes, they're applicable whenever.
In my humble opinion, Mike, there's only 2 types of music. Music that you like and music that you don't like.
Right.
And, you can put all these crazy names and genres, who cares? You either like it or you don't.
That's exactly right.
Now, reading up about you, I like the part where I was on your website where it said that you became disenchanted. By the way, we're about the same age. Back in the 1980s, you and your brother got together and you recorded original music on a 4-track home studio.
Right.
Yeah. So did we. That's what we all did back then, because that's what you could afford. By the way, the Beatles album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, was done on a 4-track.
That's right. Yep, 4 tracks.
4 tracks. That's all you need. I did over 500 programs with Artie Kornfeld. He and his buddy Michael Lang were the 2 guys that put on Woodstock. And Artie went on to be one of the biggest producers in rock music at that time. And they did a lot of their albums on 2 tracks.
Yep.
2 tracks. So that's a great way. I haven't seen anybody that talked about a 4-track for a long time. But nowadays, so what do you use nowadays? What's your setup like these days?
Well, these days I have a home studio. I'm not playing out or doing any of that stuff. The days of, lugging equipment around they're over. They've been over for a long time. So I just enjoy writing music. It's wired into me. It's part of my DNA, Z-Man. That's how I look at it. And I have a Tascam 24-track digital recorder. It sits on a drafting table in my office, and I do my thing. And I do all of the music, all of the guitar work, bass work, keyboards. The only thing that I use that is what would be referred to, I guess, as technology is a drum machine. So I use either an Alesis drum machine or a Zoom, and that's how I get the drums down. But everything else is me. All of the singing, the harmonies, the other instrumentals. So
you play all the instruments except the drums?
Yeah, I play all the instruments except the drums. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a guitar player by trade, and I played bass for a very long time, starting way back in the late 70s, going into the 80s, when we really couldn't find a bass player. So I was like, tag, I was it.
Well, can't all guitar players play bass?
I think so. I mean, it's just the first 4 strings, right? So
I'm going to get hate mail for that one.
Yeah, well, there's technique, obviously, that separates the great ones from the not so great. But the 4 strings on the bass, if you're playing a 4-string bass, are the top 4 strings of a guitar. So if you're an adequate or a decent guitar player, you should be able to find your way around the bass.
Well, if you're a musician and an artist and creating music and you don't have your own home studio, why not? Home studios are ubiquitous. They've put the mom and pop recording studios out of business 20 years ago. 20 years ago. It's a wonderful thing. I have 2 home studios. You walk in, you throw the switch, and you start creating. It's that simple. Well, let's talk about that after we listen to the first song. The first cut you would like to play for our audience is entitled Breathe. Tell us a little bit about this, and then we'll run it.
Well, Breathe came about when we went through all of the stuff that began in March of 2020, all of the mandates and all of that stuff. And so, it kind of locked everybody down. A lot of folks were in a bad way, losing jobs and all of that stuff. And it was just a very rough period worldwide. So I sat down and I wrote the song Breathe, and it was really capturing my thoughts and what I was feeling at the time about what was going on in the world. So I sat down and wrote the song, and I finished it up in December of, I think it was 2020. So that's when I finished up the song, and it's actually doing fairly well as far as my Reverb Nation website and my SoundCloud. So the song is done pretty well.
Excellent. Here it is, folks. track is Breathe. Our guest is Mike Williams, and you're listening to a music special on the Artist First Radio Network. Good cut, Mike. Well done.
Yeah, thank you, Z-Man. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You know, it's very difficult. The average listener out there probably doesn't realize just how difficult it is to have an idea in your head and then make it come out of a pair of speakers exactly the way you're conceiving it in your brain. How are you in the studio? Is that a joy, or is it a challenge, or I guess it could be a bunch of things? How does that work for you?
It's both a joy and a challenge to actually sit down and write the song. You know, some songs, they come easier than others. Sometimes you'll have maybe a lyric or a chorus and you build a song around that. Sometimes you have the actual music. You might have, the chords, figured out or something close to what you want. And then you work on that and then you build the lyrics around that. So it goes both ways, you know. It takes time. Writing music is a process. I do have a home studio like yourself. We have the ability to not worry about ringing up the cash register and, writing checks and paying a sound engineer or a studio for the time. You can actually sit down and you can experiment. So you can try different things and see if it clicks. And there's many times when I'm absolutely convinced that something I want to do, a certain track that I want to do, is going to work. I have it milling around in my head. And it's funny how many times it will work, but there's other times when you're so convinced that it's going to click and it doesn't. And, so then you go back to the drawing board. It's a creative process, and it does take time, especially when you're putting an album together. That takes a lot of time.
Well, let's focus on the writing aspect, and then we'll focus on the recording aspect. But do you generally hear the music first or the lyrics first?
With me, most of the time, it's the music. So I will have maybe a chord progression or a certain riff, and I think to myself, that's pretty good, and let me see if I can make something more out of it. Occasionally, you could sit down and write the entire song out. Comes quickly. That doesn't mean that that's the final version of the song, but you have the basic structure of the song, and you can build on it from there. And then for me, then I sit down and I write the lyrics. But there are times, like especially when I'm driving and I'm kind of lost in thought, and certain phrases will come to mind. And I will think, that's a pretty good start to a verse, or that might be a good chorus. And so what I usually do is, I'll text what the words are that came to me so that I don't lose them. So I text them to myself. And then later on, I'll go back and look at it and say, well, let me see what I can do with this. So it goes both ways. But for me personally, if I had to say which comes first more often, it will be aspects of the music.
By the way, what a great idea that is, folks, to text yourself or voice record or leave a message on your voicemail instead of losing the thought.
Yeah.
Isn't technology wonderful? How many of you guys out there listening have lost a piece of music or a lyric because you wrote it on that slip of paper and it's long gone?
Yeah, you've got to capture it in the moment. In fact, what I do, Z-Man, I write a lot of the songs on acoustic. I will write on electric as well. But I will just turn the microphone on my computer, start strumming and playing. And this way, at least I've captured that piece of it. But your point is very important. You do have to capture it, because otherwise, we've all done this. Something's come to us. We think, hey, that's a good idea, whether it be the music or a lyric. And then you lose it and you don't remember it.
I use Sonar in my home studio. That's evolved from this software. I'm dating myself now, Cakewalk. All right, Cakewalk evolved into Sonar, and there's many of them out there that are great. But I use Sonar because I'm used to it and I understand how it works. And I can turn on, when I get in my studio, I can turn on the recording button, and I record I can just let it run for 5 hours, 6 hours, 10 hours. I just let it run.
Yeah.
And as I'm working on stuff, I got all these different things that's there. I don't care. There's no tape involved, so you're not going to run out of. I could probably let it run for a week and still have room. And what a wonderful thing. Then I go back when I'm not busy, and I'll listen to some of the ideas I have. The ones that are good, I keep. The ones that were, they're not so good, I just delete them. But what a wonderful tool. There's a software called Audacity that we use here at the station. And in fact, I use it a little bit at home in my studio. Audacity, Audacity. It's absolutely free. It is freaking fantastic. And if you're looking for a great digital audio software to use at home, folks, it runs on just about anything. And you can have an unlimited number of track studio in your house for free. Audacity. Check it out, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that's what I use when I record to my desktop. I use Audacity.
Fantastic stuff. Now, you can make a donation to the guys. It's freeware, folks. You're not stealing it. So maybe you want to send them a couple dollars because they're great enough to have made this and given it to the world.
And they're very good at keeping it updated.
And it can do everything. Oh, my God. It is a wonderful, wonderful tool. We've been using it here at the station for years and years and years. Now, being, you write the music, you record the music. So should we consider this then a solo project? That it's all you? Is your brother involved?
No, it's just me. Over the years, what happened, everybody goes about having their life. The first album that I recorded goes back, I started recording it back in late 2011. And so we're going back, 12 years ago. I've been playing, before that, obviously. We just talked about the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. But I actually sat down and decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to put my first album out. And that was an album titled Leaving Dystopia. It was released back in 2012 or 2013. But it's just me. Now, my brother and I have talked about getting back together to do some work. He's a drummer by trade, but he's also a very good keyboard player. And so we're going to have to see if we can make that work out. But with everybody's schedule and everything that's going on, sometimes that's a little difficult.
Nothing against your brother. I'm sure he's a fine gentleman. But, folks, if you've ever been in a recording studio with a group of musicians, good luck. Musicians have certain personalities, and they often butt heads, and there can be a lot of arguments and opinions. So when you do it by yourself, you eliminate all those tensions of having to, compete with musician-type personalities. All right, well, let's scoot on to the next track. In fact, folks, we're going to play the track right now. It's called When You Gonna Get It, and when we come out on the other side, our guest Mike Williams can tell us about it. Here it is.
You don't understand. Gotta be a mama who carried the load, pulling you along that rocky road. When you gonna get it? When you gonna get it? All those years when you didn't pay your dues, singing along to the little boy blues. When you gonna get it? Your tale of woe, all this time with little to show. Gotta be a daddy who did you wrong, making you feel like you didn't belong. When you gonna get it? When you gonna get it? All those years when you didn't pay your dues, singing along to the little boy blues. You don't understand. Gotta be a mama who carried the load, pulling you along that rocky road. When you gonna get it? When you gonna get it? All those years when you didn't pay your dues, singing along to the little boy blues. When you gonna get it? When you gonna get it?
You are listening to the music of Mike Williams. He's our featured music special tonight. There is another show that Mike did with us. If you go back on our music show archives, it's alphabetically listed, and you can find that. Now, we told the audience you were going to tell us about that cut. It was called When You Gonna Get It. So how did that song come together?
Yeah, so as I mentioned when we started the conversation, Z-Man, I wanted this album to focus a lot on social commentary. So when I take a look around me, I see a lot of people that they don't really want to work for what they get or what they have or what they desire. So the song is about the fact that you have to pay your dues. So if you're looking to succeed in life, there's going to be work involved. You're going to have to pay your dues, and that's just how it works in my mind. I mean, at least that's how it worked when I was growing up and how I lived my life and how I was brought up. So when I look around me, I don't see that. I see that kind of falling apart where a lot of society is looking for instant gratification. They don't want to work very hard for whatever it is that, they're seeking to obtain. And so the song just came based upon that thought process.
Well, I'm going to get some hate mail because that's what I do. But a lot of today's music sucks out loud. If you can't sing and you can't play an instrument, how can you win a Grammy?
Yep.
Okay, you guys are welcome to send hate mail to DJ@artistfirst.com, and I'll put them in the big fat file that we have. It's very frustrating to have spent a lifetime trying to master your instrument, trying to be the best you can in performance and recording, and then look up and see some of this stuff. Okay, I've said enough about that. What's your thoughts on that topic?
I agree with you 100%, Z-Man. I mean, what we're hearing today is a lot of rubbish. It's all performance-based. It's not based in musical aptitude, knowing how to play the guitar, the bass, the drums, the keyboards, or whatever. When you listen to my songs, and I'm not patting myself on the back, this is just the way it is. When you're listening to my songs, that's me. And it's not being enhanced with all of this technology. Don't get me wrong, the technology has its place and it can be very useful, but not to the point where it's taking the human element completely out of the song. And that's the problem that I have. Music is now becoming very digitized. It's very artificial. It has lost its soul from a human creativity perspective.
I believe, this is just my personal opinion, but I believe I can tell when a piece of music has been written because the guy that wrote it, he writes the music and then he stands out by his mailbox and waits for the truckloads of money to come in. In other words, he writes it to make a profit, not for the art of writing music, not for the, like you talked about at the beginning of the show, not trying to make a commentary on society, but to just make that money, get that money.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I think you can tell. I think the public can tell. This is an interesting question that I like to ask original music artists. As you're working on your material, and you've been working on the same song for hours or weeks or months, how do you know when it's finished?
Yeah, that's a good question, because if you're like me, that process can go on for a long time, because you're always thinking it could be just a little better. And if you just do a little bit more, you can just push the envelope. And but sometimes you just have to take a step back and say, you know what? I can't overthink this either. And perhaps what I have right now is good to go. And I think sometimes songwriters and musicians have a tendency maybe to overproduce. And, I've done that. I found that the more basic you keep it, generally speaking, the better off you are.
It was B.B. King, I think, who famously said, when it comes to recording music, less is more.
Right.
Now, how I've solved that issue is, when do I know when it's done? Some of my songs have 15 versions. Sped up, slowed down, changed the instruments. I have many, many different versions of the same song because, well, number one, I have the ability to do that. And sometimes I like when it's an acoustic. Sometimes I like when it's fully orchestrated. And that's how I solve that problem. I just make another version.
Yeah, I've done that too. I've had versions where here's the electric version, here's the acoustic version, here's the piano version.
Yeah. Why not? Why not? All right, we're going to move on to the next track. If you're just joining us, Mike Williams is our guest. He's back. He was with us before. You can find that program on the archives. And Mike's choice for our next cut is Don't Let Go. What are we going to hear now?
Don't Let Go is a song actually that was co-written with my wife. My wife actually came up with the lyrics and the melody, and she would just sing the song to me, and then I would put the music to it, and so it was a collaboration. And so this is my wife's song with Mike just doing the music.
Waves of desperation come crashing in again, feeling the sensation. I need you to the end, don't you know? I need my baby, don't you know? I need my baby, don't let go. Assess the situation, the truth is plain to see. This abomination, there's only you for me, don't you know? I need my baby, don't you know? I need my baby, don't let go.
All right. That's a nice little track.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Do you have favorites? Is there songs that you write that just become, for whatever reason, some of your favorite material, and others that are, hey, I mean, you like them, it's your material, but they're not quite as, what am I trying to say here, dear to your heart as others?
Oh, yeah. There's certain songs that you write that you like them, and there are other songs that you write. I mean, you wrote them, and you think, they're good. But there's definitely a pecking order. There are songs that you write that you think, well, that really is a pretty good song. And there are other songs that you write, and you're like, well, it's a song. It's a good song. I mean, I try not to put anything out there that I'm not pleased with. But like I said, there are degrees of being pleased. And some songs, you really like that you do. And other songs, they fall to the lower end of the pecking order.
Kind of like having children. Well, I know, because I'm kind of low on the pecking order as far as my family. I accept that. I'm okay. It's okay. Now, let's talk about musical instruments. My musical instruments, I have 7 pianos. I might have 8 pianos. I'd have to think. If my house is on fire, once I get my loved ones out of the house, I'm going back in for those pianos. They are soulmates to me. And yet there's people who see a piano like a hammer or a chainsaw. It's just a tool. Do you have favorite instruments? How do you relate to your tools?
Oh, yeah, I have there's certain guitars. I have a large guitar collection. I have about 50 guitars that I've collected over the years. Some of them go back into the late 1960s and into the 70s and into the 80s. Most of those are really collectibles, if you will. But I also have my guitars that are my go-to guitars. You know, as an example, I have a 2007 Strat that I play with a humbucker back towards the bridge, and that's the guitar that I usually use whenever I'm playing lead guitar. You know, and I have other guitars that I pick up. I have a Fender American Standard Telecaster that I'll use if I really want like a bright sound to the song. In fact, it's the guitar I use to play the lead in the song Billy Pepper, which we'll play, I guess, pretty soon. Yeah, I do have go-to guitars, Z-Man. It's just interesting how some guitars just feel better in your hands. And that might seem weird to some folks because they might think, well, isn't a guitar just a guitar? And it's not. Some guitars do feel better playing than others.
If you try to calculate the number of hours during rehearsals, during recordings, and during performances that I have spent with some of my keyboards, I have an SY85 Yamaha keyboard. I probably played 1,500 gigs, 2,000 jobs with this piano.
Wow.
I have my fingernails have actually worn ruts, divots in some of the keys.
Yeah.
I probably should have trimmed my nails, but I'm just saying, for me, I become very close to my instruments. I know that sounds wacky to you guys out there, but okay. Let's move on to Johnny Lightstone. What's this one about?
Johnny Lightstone addresses all of the lies and deception that we get bombarded with every day. And so Johnny Lightstone is a personification of anyone or any entity that feeds us a bunch of nonsense, lies, deception, propaganda, and so on. Because I've been asked, once I released the song, people were asking me, well, who is Johnny Lightstone? And my answer is Johnny Lightstone is somebody who's not feeding you the truth.
Hey, look over there, it's a shiny silver ship. Man, that's cool. Man, he's hip with his jet black hair and his big white smile. He lies to you, but he does it with style. He promises the moon with a sleazy little wink. His rattlesnake eyes tell you how to think. He's all glossed up and made for TV. Mr. Prime Time got you on your knees. Get in line, kiss the ring of Johnny Lightstone. He's so fine, everybody sing Johnny Lightstone. His eyes are cold, his blood is ice. Believe in him and pay the price. He leads the blind when you can see. He steals your mind so you're not free. Johnny Lightstone. Johnny Lightstone. Come on. His eyes are cold, his blood is ice. Believe in him and pay the price. He leads the blind when you can see. He steals your mind.
listening to the music of Mike Williams on the Artist First Radio Network. Mike, for people that just joined us, where can they pick up your music?
They can just go to my hub website, Z-Man. It's laboroflove.com. Laboroflove.com. And if you go there, all the links to my songs and Reverb Nation, SoundCloud, and all that stuff, it's all there.
There's a giant service out there that all the artists subscribe to. To make $1, you have to have 1,500 plays to make $1.
Yeah, are you referring to Spotify?
I think I am. Thank you. That's exactly right. Most musicians hate Spotify because of what I just mentioned. They keep the money, however they're doing it, and they pay musicians crap. So what I'm trying to say, listeners, buy the song. Go download the song and spend $1. Folks, if you don't have $1, I'll give it to you. But the artist gets to keep the majority of the money. What is wrong with that? Instead of those music industry bastards taking all the money, how about the artist get some of it? Wait, I'm sorry. I need to take my blood pressure pills. Your thoughts on that, Tom?
Yeah, if you're interested in purchasing the album, go to my Reverb Nation because that's where I'm selling it. And Z-Man is absolutely right. I think Spotify, if I'm not mistaken, was sued a number of years ago for not doing the right thing from a royalty perspective. So I don't pay much attention to Spotify. My songs are up there, but I really don't pay much attention to it. I push my music through Reverb Nation, SoundCloud, and platforms like that.
When we had the guy from Jefferson Airplane on, Marty Ballin, when we had him on the Artie Cornfield show, he said right over the air, I'm not going to mention the name of the company because I don't want to get sued, but he said, hey, insert company name here. He said, hey, where's my money?
Yeah. Michael
Shreve from Santana, hey, where's my money? Corey Wells from Three Dog Night, same thing. Interviewed, the guy that wrote Me, the Mob, and the Music. And on the interview, he says, Z-Man, my record label owes me $30 million.
Holy smokes.
That's why Artist First was created. Artist First. Because always the artist is the last person to make the money. All the dirtbags and scumbags, they make the money. Tommy James was the name. He's the person that we had on, wrote Me, the Mob, and the Music. And he's the one that publicly states they stole $30 million of his money.
So Tommy James from the Shondells?
Yep. Tommy James. That's what he said to me personally on the air in front of our audience. And go get the book. You can get it.
Okay.
Tommy James and the Shondells. And I said, well, Tommy, why don't you sue your label? He goes, my label is owned by a well-known mafia boss.
I think they used to record on roulette.
Yep. He names the person who since has died. And he waited till his mafia boss died, and then he put the book out. And you can go look. It's called Me, the Mob, and the Music by Tommy James and the Shondells, and that's what he says. Now, Mike, do you mind if we go over a few minutes? We got the show in front of you ran right up to the hour, so we started a few minutes late. Is that going to infringe on your schedule tonight?
No, not at all, Z-Man.
Okay, then I won't have to rush through this. All right, well, anyway, folks, the music industry has a terrible, horrible track record, okay? It just does. The artists are constantly getting screwed. Here's a quiz question for the audience. When you spend $20 on a CD, how much of that money do you think the artist gets to put in their pocket? You got a number in your head? It's wrong. It's easy, $10. No. No? Is it $5? No. How about $2? No. How about $1? No. A great record contract, maybe 50 cents. Where does the rest of that money go? Not to the artist. Oh, Z-Man, you don't know what you're talking about. Really? Look it up. And that's what goes to the whole band. All right, that's what they split up among everybody in the band. The rest of the money the artist never sees. A good record deal is, we'll make you famous, but you'll make us rich. And that's been the motto of the record business all these years. Ask Taylor Swift. Anyway, so all the benefits, Mike, of you doing it on your own, you at least get to keep the benefits of what you do. And I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get off on these tangents. It's one of the reasons why we started the station, and we like to tell it the way it is. We've been threatened. We've been threatened by certain parties to not talk about these things.
Is that right?
Yep, one of our founding people left the company because they said, "Hey, it was your daughter had a nice yellow dress when she got off the bus last week."
No way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He said, "You know what? I'm out of here," and he left the company.
Wow.
You don't hear this other places, do you, folks? But it's the truth. Okay, on that pleasant thought, let's get on to our next cut. Billy Pepper, interesting track title. What's this about?
Okay, so are you aware of the rumor of Paul McCartney being replaced?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Billy Pepper is a song that I wrote about the replacement of Paul McCartney, the Paul is Dead conspiracy. So I sat down, because I've known about the conspiracy going back to when I was, oh my God, into the 1970s.
Yeah.
And so I sat down and I wrote a song about the conspiracy, and that's it, Billy Pepper. Billy Shears is the replacement, and he was introduced on the Sgt. Pepper album. And so I took Billy Shears and the Sgt. Pepper album, but I married the two names, Billy and Pepper, and created the song.
Excellent. Let's hear it, folks.
Hey there, Mr. Shears, I see you wrote a book. I heard about the rumors, so I had to take a look. Going back to yesterday,
that does sound like a song that could have been on the Sgt. Pepper album. You captured the flavor of the Beatles song on that cut. Congratulations, at least in my opinion.
Oh, thank you, Z-Man. That was the intent. The intent was to make it as Beatlesque as I possibly could.
Yeah, it works. Well, folks, we're down to our last segment with our guest, Mike Williams, and then we'll be ending with one more track. But, Mike, what have we left out? And you can take as long as you want. You want to thank people? You want to, is there some thoughts that you'd like to bring forth on this program before we're done?
The only thought that came to mind, Z-Man, is that I would really like my fellow songwriters and musicians, I would like a lot more of us to step out and to write about what's going on in the world, engage with social commentary, put it out through the music, and try to make the world a better place. And we can do that through the music and not get so caught up in what you were saying before, where it's more about pumping out a product versus what I would consider art. And I think it's very important that many of us get back to that. And I realize that, the money is more on pumping out the product and going along with what you're told to put out. For a lot of the independent artists, I think it's very important for us to shake it up a little bit. I really do. And to get the word out there. And there's no better way to do it than with music.
Look at Bob Dylan. You look back at the songs he wrote, and you look at the lyrics, and it's the time of the Vietnam War, and man, and he had such an impact. I totally agree with you. Why aren't more musicians in the troubled times that we are? Now, I do have some information on an artist that was going to put out a song. I'm not going to mention the title because it was a little derogatory towards Donald Trump. I'm just tell you the truth here. It was a song about Donald Trump. It made fun of him. And this artist was going to release it, and he was talking to me about it, and he chose not to because he was afraid. He was afraid of what those people, whoever those people are, might do to him. He was afraid he'd put his family at risk if he made a song tongue-in-cheek song, about Donald Trump. And I had to agree with him. In the old days, there's a lot of songs that talk about politicians, this and that. But I don't know that those artists feared for their lives and the lives of their families. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the first question I was going to ask you, is this an artist that people would be familiar with?
No, this was an independent artist.
Independent, yeah. Well, the problem is this is the world we live in now. We live in a world where if you cut across the grain and you don't row the boat in the right direction, then you could have issues. At the very least, we know about all of the censorship that takes place on platforms like YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and platforms like that. It's called cancel culture. That's what it's called. If you're not saying what you're supposed to be saying or what they've determined that you should be saying or thinking, then you do run the risk at the very least of being canceled, ridiculed, and I guess depending upon how much reach you have, then you could have more significant issues like this person was concerned about. Now, I'm not so sure that they would have taken him out or whatnot, but in all likelihood, the song may have been censored or pulled. I know a guy, I can't say who he is, who's been a songwriter for, must be 40 years. And he was with, I think, CD Baby for many, many years. And he was putting songs out that had to do with social commentary. And they yanked his entire portfolio from CD Baby. They basically told him, we're not going to carry you anymore as an artist. We're not going to put your product out. So good luck. Find somebody else to go do that for you. And this was after many years of putting his work out through them. So these things do happen. So if you're not singing out of the proper hymnal, then stuff like that happens. Plain and simple. And for people who think it doesn't happen, you need to wake up because it does.
Well, that's disturbing to hear that because in the early days, we actually had Derek Sivers on. Some people say it's Severs. He was the founder of CD Baby. And he came on the broadcast, and we had a great show with him. And I can't imagine that happened while he was still the owner. Now, he sold out, made a bunch of money, and it was I don't know who bought out CD Baby, but it was a big corporate group. And Derek made a comment on the program that I had to correct him on. He said, we were the first company to sell independent music CDs on the internet. I said, Derek, I'm sorry, but you're not. We were doing it 6 months before you are. We chose to go a different route. Derek Sivers retired, I don't know, a billionaire. I live in my van down by the river. We chose a different path to go into radio, but we may be, there's a footnote for you folks, look it up. We may be the very first company to ever sell independent music on the internet. 1997. I believe it was early 97 or late 1996 when we started. And we're not millionaires. All right. Well, Mike, you have an open invitation here. You're welcome here anytime. It's been great to spend some time with you. We're wrapping up here, folks, and we're going to go out with one more track. It's called No More Gods. And Mike, let us know what's up with this track before we hear it.
No More Gods is about investing in yourself, being your own authority, empowering yourself. Stop going outside yourself. Be the best that you can be your own authority, and be empowered.
I think you got some great stuff there, and you've done a hell of a job, and just keep doing what you're doing. You deserve to be heard.
Yeah, it's part of who I am, Z-Man. So I don't do it thinking I'm going to make $1 million. I do it because I love doing it. I just like putting music out. That's it. At 64 years old, I got a grandson, and my wife and I spending a lot of time with the baby and doing other stuff. So that's where I'm at in life.
Wonderful thing to have grandchildren, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It really is.
I got a 2.5-year-old granddaughter, and she is everything to me. Wonderful experience. Yeah. Well, it'll be a day or two. We'll have the archive up there, and your music will be playing on the internet forever.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
It fluctuates. In the summertime, it's a little lower. In the winter, it's much higher. But we get about a download from our archives about every 15 seconds.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes when it peaks, it's like every 3 seconds. In the summer, it slows down because people have other things to do in the northern hemisphere. But, we've had 500 and I've lost track. It's on the homepage. 535 million hours of music and author shows downloaded. Well, that's since 2007. Yeah, I mean, people, they choose to listen. We can't make anybody listen to anything. They listen because they want to.
Right.
So I hope people want to listen to your stuff, and I hope they'll go out and buy it.
Well, it's a good thing you're doing. I'm telling you what, it's very good. I appreciate it.
Well, Mike, I'll let you get back to what you're doing. Sorry I kept you over, and let us know what's going on in the future. We'll be here when you're ready again.
All right, Z-Man. Thank you so much.
Okay, Mike. Be good. Take care.
Bye-bye now.
machine.